There's so much grass here. I'm amazed these beans are even growing. Oh, hello there. Welcome back to Nuwe Blare Homestead. My name is Raul. I'm just busy picking some beans. We're going to have them in a dish later this week. Why don't you join me? I'm actually going to talk to you about the mistakes I've made this year and the lessons I've learned this year. So stay tuned. So the first lesson I can definitely tell you is that if you see any grass in your garden, you want to deal with it as soon as possible. When I was clearing this area out 2 years ago to make my garden here, I got rid of most of the grass, but it was a pain in the butt, and I was not feeling motivated to get every last piece. And the problem was that I ended up with this. Even though I cleared out as much grass as I possibly could last year, at the end of the season, I got completely overrun this year with grass. That actually brings me to the second thing that I learned, and that is that regular watering makes a huge difference. So last year, I didn't have my irrigation system set up until right at the end of the year. And so a lot of my plants really suffered because they were not getting watered consistently. And while this year started off a little bit shaky, I did have to get the amount that I watered and the how often I water right. Once I got that all sorted out, everything just grew. And of course with it, this darn grass. Last year, I spoke about growing tomatoes and it being really difficult. And this year has definitely been no different. I've had a lot more success. I don't just have one variety of tomatoes that are growing. I've got a couple, and I have a fair number of tomatoes that are growing. This plant alone has got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is great. I mean, compared to last year's harvest, which was essentially nothing, until that one rogue tomato went completely wild. And incidentally, it went wild when the weather started cooling down again. And these also, again, they only really started producing tomatoes when the weather started cooling down. So I really do need to make an effort to either get the tomatoes into the ground and flowering as soon as possible, or I think I need to actually plant much later in the season so that when it gets to about September, October, and the temperatures do start dropping, then there's a potential for the tomatoes to come. So that's still a work in progress. I've definitely learned more this year. I've been more successful with my tomatoes, but next year hopefully I'll be even more successful. I still just need to figure, just tweak things, tune things up. So one of my favorite lessons that I learned this year was that I have enough time to do 2 crops of corn. I need to start my first set of corn quite early, but then once that finishes up, hopefully in the middle to the end of July, I can plant a second set and I can get another crop of corn. So I'm really, there are heads of corn here. They still need to grow a bit, but it's been doing well, and I can't wait to have more corn at the end of my season. So make sure you learn your season, make sure you learn what you can grow when, and maximize the stuff that grows best at certain times. My tomatoes don't grow very well in the heat of the summer, but my corn loves the heat. So definitely, I'm going to concentrate next year on getting corn in, getting lots of corn in, and then rather working on my tomatoes at a different time. So one of the other things I learned this year is that potatoes are not a summer crop. These potatoes are actually the last of the ones that are growing quite well. I had some earlier and I just got really tiny potatoes. You can see in a previous video of mine that my potato harvest wasn't huge. So I definitely need to look at planting potatoes earlier or later in the season or something like that. But I need to work on my potatoes. I got some potatoes, I got some small ones, but really it was too hot for my potatoes. So that's another lesson I've learned. We got more meals out of this plant than any other plant in the whole vegetable garden. In fact, we probably got more meals out of this single plant than the entire vegetable garden put together so far. This is a collard, and it has been absolutely amazing. You can see it's still growing here. It's actually, you can't really see, well, maybe you can. Down here, it actually started from here, and we have pulled leaves, we've cut leaves off and used them, eaten the leaves. I've given a bunch of leaves to my chickens as well. It's just been an amazing plant. And so this is one of the newer things I grew this year. This was the only one that really survived out of all of the ones that I did plant here. Not that I planted many. I think I had about 2 or 3 actually. Actually 4. But out of the 4, this was the only one that survived. But you can see it's done an amazing job. And these are delicious. This is really good to eat. And you can see these leaves are huge. Collards are a type of brassica, so I think cabbage, that sort of thing. And it just produces these massive leaves, and it just keeps on producing and keeps on producing through the heat. The hottest part of summer, this thing did not care. It just carried on. So fantastic, fantastic crop. Definitely going to plant this one again next year. This massive thing here is one Christmas lima bean. Believe it or not, it's only one plant, this entire thing. It's anchored down on the other side. It started growing up and it was throwing out tendrils and things. And I thought, uh-oh, this is actually not a bush bean like I was led to believe. It's more of a runner bean. So I put up a tomato cage just to help it. And then I had another row behind it of some beans that I knew were runner beans. And this thing just took over the entire trellis behind it. So it's huge, it's massive, and it's coming down and it's going through, like it just completely covers this whole area. So lesson learned this year is sometimes the descriptions on the packets are wrong. And this one was certainly quite the surprise. There are lima beans that are forming. So there's some beans here. For a long time there weren't any beans, but they are forming. So I can't wait to see how things come out. Well, thanks for coming along with me and hearing about what I learned this year. I hope that some of the lessons that I learned are also lessons for you. I always enjoy it when people are able to learn something through what I've learned as well. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.